Welcome back to MFO, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what inspired today's episode, and that was our trip last week. Megan and I went to Galena, enjoyed the fall colors, wanted to do some things that we didn't do the last time we were there, and we went and visited a vineyard. It's called the Forget About It Vineyard in Galena, and we had a lot of wine. And it was the corks from the wine bottles that kind of got me thinking about cork handles on fishing rods, how to clean them up, and how to repair them. So we're going to use this cork and a couple like it to repair a rod handle that has a nice big gouge in it right there. And we're going to show you how to repair your cork rod handles when we come back. So I'm going to have a little sip of wine and we'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher and enjoying a little Forget About It wine. This is actually a wine, quite honestly, one of my favorites. It's a very sweet red wine. And Andy, who we became good friends with at the Forget About It Vineyards, told us the story about how the grandfather of the family makes this wine and actually combines it with brandy. So it's got a very sweet red wine taste and a brandy kind of taste. It's a delicious dessert wine. And I just happen to open it up here today while I'm down in the barn bait shop. So we're going to fix this gouge in this rod handle. And the way that we're going to do that is I'm going to take this cork, and I took this over to school and I just sanded the cork down and kept the sawdust from the cork. So what I have now is the remainder of that cork and then that amount of sawdust. And so now we're going to bring the camera over and I'm going to show you, I'm going to mix that amount of cork dust with some wood glue and create a putty to go ahead and fill that gouge that I have in my handle. So the way I'm going to create this cork putty is I'm just going to put a little bit of wood glue on a piece of wood here, a piece of scrap wood, and then I'm going to put my cork shavings, my cork dust, onto that. And I'm just gonna mix that up together. I'm going to need to continue to mix it until I get the right consistency where all my cork is mixed with my glue so it becomes kind of a putty type of consistency. And this takes a while because, there we go. Keep bringing in more cork shavings into the putty. And now, just gonna start to fill in that putty on that gouge that I have in my cork handle. Probably want to get my corkscrew out of the way here, and I'm just gonna kind of smooth that out. This is the kind of thing when you're filling in dents on a car, you want to try and get it as close to possible as you can, because it just means you're going to have to sand more once that dries. So if you can get it down as close as possible prior, then it just means less sanding. And so you can see that's been kind of filled in there. And now I'm just going to let that dry, and then we'll come back a little bit later and I'll show you how we finish that off. So we'll come back in a little bit. Okay, so it's been a day. Let me show you. That's what we've got now. That's that gouged area. And one of the things, it's hardened, but it has shrunk up a little bit. So I might end up putting another coat on this. But let me show, what I'm gonna do is I'm literally just gonna go back to using the magic sponge, and I'm gonna use that abrasion to, quote, kind of sand off the portion, and get that smooth. So let me just do that and show you. And then I'll dry that off. And that's what I've got. Now, if I want, I can take another, you can kind of see that there's a little bit of a divot in there. But that's the part that I fixed right there. And obviously a lot better. And if I want, I can just take another coat of that Cork putty that I make and fill that in a little bit more and then, quote, sand it off. I'm not gonna, I thought about using a sandpaper and sanding that, but to be honest, I don't think that's needed, and I don't want to sand the cork that I've got here. And just using that magic eraser has enough of an abrasion to it to get that to be smooth, and I end up with that. Now, one of the things, guys, that I will tell you is that I haven't done this, but I've heard that guys will then take their cork handle and seal it with something called U40. And I'm going to get that and I'm going to try that out, because I think that's what needs to happen here, is that the last step would be to just take some of that U40 and seal this handle with that, and that'll seal this as well. And so I don't have that right now, but that would be the next step on this process. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in. I'd love to hear your comments on this. Let me know if you've repaired any cork handles. And the one thing about it is that it gives you a great excuse to open up a bottle of wine and sand down that cork. And the reality is that if you need to use that cork, then you got to finish off that bottle of wine. So, I mean, you just have to do it. So, guys, I appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you again tomorrow on another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody.